Today, we're talking about a civilization that didn't just exist. It felt like it had mastered time itself. We're going to look past the golden masks and famous pharaohs to really understand the blueprint that let ancient Egypt build for eternity. So let's just start with the big question, right? How on earth did one civilization last for 3,000 years? I mean, just to put that into perspective, that is 10 times longer than the United States has even been around. So what was their secret? Well, to get to the bottom of their incredible staying power, you have to start with what they believed. And this wasn't just about religion, it was more like the entire operating system for their world. At the very heart of everything was this concept called ma'at. Now, this wasn't just some vague idea, it was the fundamental force that kept the universe in order. It's what made the sun rise, what made the Nile flood and bring life to the desert, and it's what kept society from falling apart. The pharaoh's number one job? Uphold ma'at. And how exactly do you maintain cosmic balance? Well, for the Egyptians, you did it by honoring a massive pantheon of over 2,000 gods and goddesses. Seriously, they had a deity for pretty much everything you could think of, from desert storms to brewing beer. And each one had a vital part to play in keeping the universe and their own lives in perfect harmony. And this all connects to a really crucial idea. For the Egyptians, our life here on Earth was just temporary. It was basically a short layover on an eternal journey. They were convinced the soul was immortal, which is exactly why they put so much effort into mummification. If you could just preserve the body, you could guarantee the soul a ticket to the afterlife, a paradise they called the Field of Reeds. So you can imagine, if you genuinely believe in forever, you're not just going to build for today, you're going to build things to last forever. And that belief is what directly fueled some of the most jaw-dropping engineering feats in all of human history. And of course, the most famous example is the Great Pyramid of Giza, built for Pharaoh Khufu. And hey, let's bust a quick myth. Forget what you've seen in the movies. This wasn't built by slaves. All the modern evidence points to a skilled, paid Egyptian workforce. This was a massive national project, a source of real pride. Now, to really wrap your head around the scale of this thing, just look at this. The Great Pyramid weighs as much as 16 Empire State Buildings. 16! And it was built over 4,500 years ago, with sides that are almost perfectly aligned to north, south, east, and west. It's a level of precision that still kind of baffles engineers today. This obsession with detail wasn't just for buildings. I mean, look at mummification. It was so incredibly meticulous that if you were to unwrap all the fine linen bandages from just one mummy, they could stretch out for 1.6 kilometers. That's about a mile. That's the kind of care you take when you're preparing for eternity. Of course, none of this incredible work would have been possible if they couldn't write it all down. Their writing system was incredibly sophisticated, using more than 700 different hieroglyphs. It's how they documented everything from religious spells to complex architectural plans, preserving their knowledge for thousands of years. And you know, it's thanks to those records that we know the Egyptians weren't just this somber civilization obsessed with death. Not at all. They were real people who lived full, vibrant lives. So let's step away from the giant monuments for a second and look at the more human side of things. Some parts of their daily life might sound surprisingly familiar. For example, both men and women wore really thick eyeliner and eyeshadow. It wasn't just for looks. They thought it had magical healing powers and protected their eyes from the sun's glare. They also absolutely loved cats, believing they were sacred animals that brought good luck. And get this, they loved board games. A game called Senet, which was kind of about the journey to the afterlife, was a national obsession for over 2,000 years. And their legacy is actually all around us, in ways we probably don't even think about. The ancient Egyptians came up with so many things we take for granted. The world's first paper made from papyrus plants, reed pens to write with, even complex locks and keys for security. Oh, and a kind of toothpaste made from things like crushed rock salt and mint. Okay, so if they were so advanced and so stable, what happened? Why did it end?
Well, it wasn't some sudden collapse. It was more of a long, slow goodbye, a gradual fading over centuries as other powers started rising up around them.
So, after the mighty New Kingdom ended around 1069 BCE, Egypt's central government started to splinter, and a weaker Egypt became a target. It faced a whole series of invasions, first the Assyrians, then the Persians. In 332 BCE, Alexander the Great showed up, and he was actually welcomed as a liberator. But his arrival marked a new era. And finally, with the death of the last pharaoh, the famous Cleopatra, in 30 BCE, Egypt was officially swallowed up by the Roman Empire. The age of pharaohs was over.
But here's the thing. Even after the last pharaoh was gone, Egypt's story was far from finished. Its independence might have faded, but its culture, its innovations, and those incredible monuments, well, they made sure its legacy would be cast in stone, forever.
You know, the historian Will Durant really put it perfectly. He said, Egypt offers the spectacle of the greatest civilization that has yet appeared on the earth. We shall do well to equal it. That sheer scale and unity of what they accomplished, it's just as awe-inspiring today as it ever was. Which really just leaves us with one final thought. In our world of constant, rapid change, there's something powerful about this 3,000-year story of stability and belief. It makes you wonder, what other secrets of survival are still buried out there in the sand?